deck. How to combat orange Retribution decks. Okay, the next one that I wanted to bring up is going to be all blue styles versus orange Retribution. I picked blue next because I actually recently built a blue deck, and I like to think that it's a pretty good match for blue, but it gave me rare insights as to how to combat this problem. So let's dive right in. Now, blue in theory is a natural match for the anger-based orange Retribution, in theory. Of the masteries, blue tag team right out the gate is probably the most limited in this matchup. See, orange does little to no stage damage, so you'll hardly ever get to use an abundance of allies unless you build in ways to get to the ally abilities by getting down to 0 stages. There's cards to do that, but you gotta build a deck around it. Just reference the olden days with blue Ginyu decks. But if you must, there is a way to make blue tag team work right off the bat. Now, you could always, of course, go with a blue Broku, the blue Goku from Evolution. Basically, use blue tag with Roshi as your main ally. What you do, of course, is you pull him out turn 1, and then with Goku, you basically keep targeting him, and he never leaves play, that kind of thing. It'll work with a couple of other options I'll go over shortly. Now, remember, with blue tag and Roshi out on turn 1, your opponent won't be able to use their searching capabilities. Basically, the orange style mastery's capability to search out drills after leveling goes away. Their ability to search and pull drills from the discard pile, like with orange refocus, goes away. No searching. Like we said, if you were to go with this particular design and then keep targeting Roshi, he'll never be able to get rid of Roshi. Remember, like we said with level 2 Broku, he can't leave play. You choose an ally and they're there for good. If you're going to go with this design, if you were to go with my overall focus, you could throw in Ox King for getting rid of modifications. But like we said, you only do this if you have a lot of flat damage attacks, like energies or flat stages or flat life cards. The other gamble, of course, is you're having more than one ally. With you, remember, blue tag means they can't be critted away. Your last ally, similar to Namekian Knowledge's last Dragon Ball, can't be critted away. Like we said, the gamble is potentially being able to lose Roshi and then, of course, having the game flip on you. Now, Blue Resolute Mastery, I have a little bit less to say about this one, but it's all positive. Now, see, the damage buff works well with the theme I'm going to put forward. You can use the Mastery's card draw effect to keep up with Orange's multitude of actions in combat. So there's not really a lot of bad about the Blue Resolute Mastery. Basically, in the overall strategy, you could swap it in with very little worry about how it'll work out for you. Last one here I have the most to say about is Blue Protective. Now, this one raises the anger gain needed to level, moving it from 5 to 6 in order to level. See, allowing more time to be able to intervene and lower their anger, and oftentimes keeps Orange Retribution players off their game for getting to 6 anger instead of 5. So that you'll notice a lot of times they'll be counting, oh, I hit 5 anger, and I'll be, you have to get to 6. Now, having the ability to have a block in hand from the mastery and being able to target anger in that same move makes it invaluable. Which one do I like most? Well, they all have merit. I'll just sort of briefly recap. Blue tag team, like we said, if you run it with that mastery, with Roshi and Goku, it takes away one entire game mechanic from Orange Retribution. No searching. And then basically leaves them permanently off balance the entire game. If you do this one, even if you do it, I'd say do it just for fun, just to watch Orange scramble and find a way to, to deal with that and not be able to search out drills constantly. Blue Resolute has, like we said, everything's got merits here. Synergizes well with the abundance of Blue's discarding-oriented cards, Blue Lifting Drill, Blue Guard, etc. And the card draw is invaluable in order to, again, yield more actions and help you to be able to keep up and manage all those many actions Orange, is able to produce. Now, like I said, Blue Protective comes up here last. Now, Blue Protective doesn't help with, like leveling on your side. It doesn't really do anything like that. But like we said, it slows down their leveling. And like we said, you can use the mastery to stop an attack. Now, you can raise your own anger if you've already hit 0. This, like we said, overall goes into that theme of disrupting their anger gain. So, which one do I prefer? I like Blue Protective most, currently, Blue Protective. To me, it will be the most consistent, and consistency is key to keeping up with orange strengths. Remember how we said orange isn't broken; it's just effective and consistent. You'll always be able to turn a card, with blue protective into a block, and no other style does that. Blue Resolute does something similar, but still incorporates the luck of the draw into that action, and you may not draw what you need. With blue protective and the discarding, there are very few variables outside what I just said. But dig this! It doesn't matter which style you choose. Yes, I meant what I said. You see, the overall strategy against orange is the same for all the blue style masteries, the gimmicks aside. Anger suppression, life card damage focus, beatdown, not stage damage. Blue has outrageous stage damage cards, and that would seem a great idea, but if you can't suppress anger fast enough to level before you can do stage damage, and you'll not only get caught short time and time again, you'll end up with not enough actions to keep the assault going, keep the beatdown going. And then, of course, leaves you wide open to the obligatory anger-raising attacks they'll always have in their hands after you're done beating on them, and then they level. Now, remember, like we said, the overall style, like we said, doesn't matter. Like, you choose which version of blue, doesn't matter. But these focuses need to maintain in place. Remember, you'll build your decks with strong energy attacks and physical attacks that focus on life card damage. But remember, blue style also has something in its back pocket that no other style has built in. Except for, I guess the exception here might be a couple of cards in red, de-leveling cards. Now, your deck ought to include playsets of some or better all of the cards I'm about to list. Blue Knee, remember this one? The AT plus 3 physical, that if it hits, you may banish the top 2 cards of your life deck in order to de-level them. And then it raise a player's anger 1. You'll find out what my attitude towards anger is in this blue matchup. Blue Neck Beam, invaluable. It has endurance, it is energy, it has a hit to de-level them at the end of combat. It can be discarded if you must. Blue Takedown is my one that's a little more situational out of the group. Blue Takedown has a tendency to be situational. The de-leveling effect only takes effect if they're at 1 anger, you lower it from 1 to 0, and then if it hits 0, then you de-level them. So it's a little trickier to use. Basically, you're not going to use Blue Takedown unless you're really committed to de-leveling and having every de-leveling card you could possibly get, or you're going with the stage damage model, which I'll explain in a minute who that could work with. Now, remember, people say that Namekian style with Ball 2 leveling disruption is pretty darn effective and can really hurt Orange Retribution and other speed leveling decks. True, but for the most of us, just to help you understand, if you haven't tailored your deck to be able to pull out the Dragon Balls and use them like that, you're still actually waiting on the luck of the draw. You see, with blue, if you planned enough to have enough, all 3 blue knees, all 3 blue neck beams, all 3 blue takedowns, you're packing more instances and active instances of the ability to de-level your opponent than Namekian really ever could. Basically, after Namekian Flinch got errated, then no, blue actually moves up to the forefront of de-leveling capabilities. Now remember, most Orange Retribution players haven't fought a strong blue deck in ages. They also haven't fought any of the decks with lots and lots of de-leveling cards. So that'll slow down their speed MPPVing, especially in those early matchups when they don't know what your game is yet. Now, there are, of course, other staple cards that ought to be in every blue deck, and every one that I would build are going to show up, besides the de-leveling cards. Blue Head Knock, obviously. It focuses right in our strategy. Remember we said? Life card damage and sets their anger to 0. This will get around some of the cards. I always call it Inspection Drill, but I don't think that's what it's called. It's the one that says if you lower their anger, it gets changed to only lowered by 1. Remember, Blue Head Knock doesn't lower their anger. It sets it to 0. It gets around cards that prevent anger lowering. Blue Defensive Effect. The MPPV, the best card in blue currently to fight Orange Retribution. You activate the card in combat. It lowers their anger 1 level, and they cannot raise their anger for the remainder of combat. If you think about it, a single combat can be vitally important. You might see an Orange Retribution player, Vegeta or one of the other ones, rocket from 2 to 3 1 to 2 to almost into 3 or even into 3 if just given enough actions and enough whatnot going on. How would you like to say go ahead and do all that? Just remember, you're not getting any anger out of it. Go nuts. That derails that freight train. Another card I can't speak enough of is Blue Narrow Escape. Of course, stops attacks, carries endurance. Oh, by the way, I skipped over something. Blue defensive effect, of course, carries 6 endurance. So if your opponent has giant, death blows, you can laugh them off as very few cards can. Oh, but Blue Narrow Escape, like we said, the ability to stop an energy attack, which of course Orange Retribution is focused on. And then, like we said, it's going to go ahead and allow you to place 2 energy combat. Now, it didn't say style, just 2 energy combat cards from your discard pile to the top of your life deck. You got 2 different options for this. If you've chosen the card draw masteries as the ones that you went with, Narrow Escape is going to let you set up your own card draw, whatever it is you want, from the discard pile to the top. That's pretty valuable. Sometimes you're just going to have to brace for some damage and find a way past, some big hits. That's what you do. You Narrow Escape, pile up a bunch of endurance, and then take that hit. The last one here, like we said, is going to end up in absolutely all of them, is Blue Betrayal. Remember, we were talking about our overall theme. I know this one does stage damage, and that gets away from our theme. However, it fits with the other part of our theme, that you banish, not destroy, all of your opponent's drills when you do it. You make sure you put them as far away as you possibly can when dealing with orange. They have means to get them back, but it's not readily accessed. Here's some overall tactics that you're going to go ahead and observe fighting Orange Retribution as a blue player. Your card choice should reflect Blue's strengths. Like we said, all of Blue's strengths: anger lowering, de-leveling, life card damage over stage. Unless your MP, like we said, is a better choice, is better served that way. Just examples, Android 13, you'll see. Now, cards you should generally include have the lowering of anger in the immediate effect. That's Blue Head Knock, that's Blue Rejection, you get what I'm saying. It shouldn't, the anger lowering part of your cards, like we said, forget about de-levelers for a second. The anger lowering portion should always be an immediate effect. You shouldn't have a card that hit lower their anger, because you have to, basically you're going to have time and time again where they're going to go ahead and stop an attack because yours had to hit, stop it, raise an anger, like with Orange Refocus, pull out a drill. Again, you've set it in motion. Actually attacking them made it worse. So remember, anger lowering and the immediate effects. Also, level camping could and should be a part of any blue style currently. Now, you won't be able to depend on angering up with Orange's anti-anger capabilities. Ensure speed in angering up. You won't win that race, so don't compete. You have to get to the beatdown, get at that deck, and end it before they can do much of anything. You have tools to help level camping and to use my other favorite strategy. Now, camping a level 2 and then using cards to advance there, not anger up. See, anger's too volatile, too easily lost, and also gets you away from your more important goal, which is the beatdown. Now, if I was to give you advice on effective main personalities, it's a short list, but maybe a few will surprise you. So somebody who probably just, I'll leave a little bit of silence here if you guess who it is. It's Cooler. Cooler is one of the first MPs I choose for this sort of style because, of course, his named card, Cooler Supernova, lets you actively target drills constantly. Your opponent would be foolish to damage them out of your deck, knowing full well they're going to lose their drills to start the next combat. Now, like we said, being that it's an entering combat effect, it's basically impossible for your opponent to avoid. Basically, they can't knock the stage at you to prevent you from doing it. You get what I'm saying. The other thing is, if your opponent has a Visiting the Past in the play, remember that as soon as you go and enter combat, you'll rejuvenate Supernova. It goes to the bottom of your deck. You blow up their Visiting. Your entering effects go first. So you can offensively kill their Visiting the Past and get past a lot of that sort of thing. It's also a good way to get around lots and lots of Visiting the Past abuse that you're probably used to seeing. Also, Cooler's level 2 has a great effect to camp on for a whole game. Remember, life card damage and rejuvenation built in. You can't beat that. Another one you might not expect because you don't see it a whole lot on our channel, but Pycon. Remember, Pycon, of course, all of his attacks are focused on life card damage, which is what we're trying to do. Also, he has his own built-in rejuvenation capability in a similar manner to Cooler. Remember, also, he has the ability to rejuvenate and then deals with event cards. Again, the ability to stop time, on people, at least at higher levels. He's got a card discard capability built in on level 2, so you don't have to deal with not being able to discard cards. Like if you wanted to build that discarding cards mechanic into all your cards, what you choose, PyCon will still make that work and still can camp on level 2. This one you guys probably weren't expecting because of that sort of history that this particular MP has. Android 13. See, he focuses on stage damage. And remember how we said that if you were going to be insistent, there are plenty of blue-style cards that are wildly effective and have gigantic pluses on stage damage. You got your blue round throw, you got tons and tons of these cards. Here's the kicker, though. He can get to level 2 with blue dominance. And then, including enough of these, of course, blue dominance up to level 2. And remember, he can pull out his allies on hit. Sooner or later, he'll have his allies in play, and sooner or later, he'll be able to level up to 3. So he's one of these few characters where you can place all the same strategy of trying to camp level, like camp level 2, put in blue dominance, and still make it to 3 without having to do anything else. Remember also his when entering combat ability. It's odd to say that I lived under a time when Android 13 decks and his entering combat, you skip your first action, and depending on who entered on who, you can get 2 of those. If you think about it for a second, what was the last time you saw an Orange Retribution player be able to handle skipping that many actions, especially right at the beginning, and being able to lose stages, just off that effect? It's better than you think. Okay, my very last choice for effective personalities with the build we were talking about, and I bet if you guys even had, I left 5 minutes of silence, you wouldn't be able to catch it. It's General Tao. I think he's called Mercenary Tao. I haven't looked at his cards in a little while. Mercenary Tao shouldn't surprise you. See, he focuses on what we were talking about. Life card damage, card draw, and the ability to make the next attack become unstoppable. See, making your D-level attacks surefire hits. Unless your opponent basically wants to waste a block on a 1 life card attack, they're going to end up having an unstoppable D-leveler hit you this next turn. You won't have as much to worry about as orange rocketing off as you might think. Okay, the last option on the list is Blue Goku from Evolution, or Broku as we started to call him. Which version of Goku is it? See, you can go ahead and run the Swiss Army knife of allies. You've seen those decks really take off, and then of course there's plenty of cards to help you maintain them in play and to be able to get them back no matter where your opponent tries to push them into. But like I said, I would rather just go with a Roshi and keep him in play the whole game, and my opponent can't get rid of him, and and basically loses their search mechanic for the rest of the game. It would be an interesting one to watch them play with a handicap like that. Okay, remember that how I said how it didn't matter which style you chose because your overall strategy is going to stay the same? Like we said, in my opinion, I put in blue dominance to get to level 2 on 80 above MPs, include blue positioning drills with lifting drills. Why? You hammer away with them with the +1 life card, again, staying focused on the one, what's that word? The type of damage that we do. You make them lose anger on hits or blocks from immediate effects. Remember that. Your cards should have immediate effects to lower their anger, and if they have the gall to stop it, they lose additional anger with lifting drill's effect. And positioning drill means every time you're stopping an attack, you get to stack your deck with another card you're going to need. Again, stack endurance, stack something you intend to draw if you went with one of the draw types. I don't know why people weren't abusing positioning drill with that draw capability of resolute. I don't know what would stop people from using that or going nuts with it. I feel like I should have fought a bunch more of those. So, in theory, if you follow this strategy of level camping, plus anger focus, plus life card beatdown, you not only can match Orange Retribution, you will oftentimes come out ahead. In fact, in my own experience running a really similar build to everything I proposed here, the only time that I lost is when I made mistakes. So the game was mine to lose. Thanks for tuning in to Decked. Let me know how it goes.